Welcome to today's podcast. We're going to discuss a topic that affects nearly every young person today, the influence of social media. Now, social media has become an inseparable part of daily life, especially for young people. It impacts everything, from how we communicate with friends and family to how we view ourselves. Social media platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube have created entire subcultures and trends that shape youth culture on a global scale. And while it has its perks, it also has some significant drawbacks. In this episode, we're going to break down both sides of the story. We'll look at how social media benefits youth, where it can negatively affect them, and how it impacts mental health, self-image, and communication skills.
Absolutely, Ryan. Social media has grown into such a central part of youth culture that it's hard to imagine life without it. For young people, platforms like Instagram or TikTok are not just places for fun, but also spaces for self-expression and identity formation. Whether it's posting a picture, sharing a video, or commenting on someone's post, social media gives youth a sense of belonging and validation. But the reality is, it's also impacting their relationships and self-image in ways we can't always see right away. Many youth rely on social media for emotional support, but it also exposes them to pressures and comparisons that may not be healthy. In this podcast, we'll dive into these aspects, from how social media shapes self-esteem to how it changes the way young people interact with each other in real life.
Exactly, Priya. We're not here to say that social media is all bad or all good. Like most things, it's about balance. Today, we'll explore how social media can be a source of education, creativity, and connection, but also how it can lead to issues like anxiety, self-doubt, and even addiction. We'll cover how social media affects communication skills, how youth are dealing with unrealistic beauty standards, and how it influences their behavior and opinions. Ultimately, the goal of today's episode is to help listeners understand both the advantages and the challenges of social media, so they can make more informed decisions about how they interact with it on a daily basis.
Social media is everywhere, and for today's youth, it's as essential as texting or emailing. In fact, research shows that around 90% of teens use social media in some form, whether it's for keeping up with friends, watching videos, or sharing content. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Snapchat aren't just popular. They've become cultural hubs where trends are born and where young people build their identities. It's a space where everything from fashion and music to political views and personal beliefs can be shared and discussed. What's interesting is how much time youth spend on these platforms. On average, teens spend several hours a day on social media, which really speaks to how deeply ingrained it has become in their everyday routines. But it's not just about the time spent. It's also about the emotional connection young people have with these platforms. Social media is how they connect, express themselves, and learn about the world.
That's right, Priya. What's also interesting is how social media has evolved into something much bigger than just a place to post pictures or stay connected with friends. For many young people, social media is a source of entertainment, a way to discover new content, and even a platform for career opportunities. I mean, think about influencers. These individuals often start by sharing their everyday lives or interests, and now they've built entire careers from it. And it's not just about following someone's life. Social media gives youth a chance to participate in creating content, too. TikTok, for example, lets anyone create viral videos and instantly become a part of trending topics, whether it's through a dance challenge or a funny skit. This level of engagement makes social media more interactive, which is a huge draw for young users. It's no wonder that, for many, their online life is as important as their offline one.
Exactly. And that brings us to something even more interesting: the way social media helps young people form communities. Youth often look for spaces where they can find people with similar interests or experiences, and social media makes that possible on a massive scale. Whether it's finding a group of fans for a favorite show, joining an online gaming community, or connecting with like-minded individuals on issues like mental health, social justice, or even hobbies, social media offers a platform for youth to engage and bond over shared passions. This sense of belonging is powerful and can help young people feel supported, especially if they don't have those kinds of connections in their immediate surroundings. It's like having a global group of friends who share the same experiences and challenges.
Right, Priya. Social media has created these digital spaces that transcend geographic boundaries, allowing youth to be part of a much larger world. But there's also a flip side to all of this, which we'll discuss in later segments. While social media has its benefits, like creating connections and helping youth feel understood, it also comes with its own set of challenges, like online pressure and unrealistic expectations. But for now, let's just acknowledge that these platforms are incredibly powerful in shaping how youth connect with others and build their identities in today's world. Let's talk about the positive side of social media for youth. When we think about social media, it's easy to focus on the potential downsides, but there are many ways these platforms can actually be beneficial. First off, social media offers an incredible wealth of educational content. Platforms like YouTube and TikTok have become powerful learning tools. From academic subjects like math and history to practical skills like coding, cooking, or even building a website, there's a tutorial or resource available on social media for almost anything. It gives youth the ability to learn at their own pace, explore new interests, and gain knowledge from a variety of sources. The best part? This content is often free and easily accessible.
Exactly, Ryan. I can personally say that I've seen so many young people pick up useful skills through social media that they may not have learned in school. For example, there are so many young creators teaching everything from digital art to playing musical instruments. Social media provides a platform where anyone, regardless of age, can become a teacher. And let's not forget about the huge educational resources available to youth in niche fields, like mental health support, environmental activism, or even starting their own businesses. There are entire communities where youth can learn and grow together, sharing tips, advice, and motivation. It's almost like creating your own personalized school with just the topics you're interested in.
Right, Priya. And this doesn't just apply to formal learning. Social media is a powerful tool for personal growth and creativity. Young people are able to express themselves in ways they might not be able to do in real life. Take YouTube, for example. Many youth are using it to share their passions and talents, whether it's through vlogs, music videos, or other types of creative content. Some even use platforms like Instagram and TikTok to showcase their art, photography, or poetry. Social media allows them to receive instant feedback, collaborate with other creators, and even grow an audience. That sense of accomplishment, especially when others appreciate your work, can be incredibly fulfilling.
And on that note, Ryan, let's talk about how social media fosters a sense of community. For many young people, social media is where they can find a group of people who understand them. Whether it's a fandom for a favorite show, a niche hobby, or a social issue they care about. Social media helps build solidarity around causes that matter to youth. They can join groups or follow influencers who are speaking out about topics like mental health awareness, LGBT+ rights, or climate change. Social media has made it possible for youth to organize, participate in activism, and even mobilize others for change. It's incredible how young people are using these platforms not just for personal growth, but to make a positive impact on the world.
That's a great point, Priya. Social media has given young people a voice in ways that were previously impossible. Whether it's promoting a cause, sharing their personal stories, or advocating for change, platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok provide them with tools to connect with others who share their passion. And in some cases, these platforms have even been used to spark real-world movements, like climate protests or social justice campaigns. For youth today, social media is more than just entertainment. It's a powerful tool for creating change and making their voices heard on a global scale.
Exactly, Ryan. Social media, at its best, gives youth a platform to amplify their voices and passions. It connects them to people, ideas, and movements that they might not have been exposed to otherwise. While there are challenges, as we'll explore later, there's no denying that social media has the potential to empower young people and open doors to new opportunities, whether it's for learning, creativity, or activism. Now, let's dive into the other side of the story: how social media can negatively impact youth. While these platforms offer countless opportunities, they also come with significant challenges. One of the most talked about issues is the effect on mental health. Many young people feel constant pressure to present a perfect image online. Whether it's posting the perfect selfie, maintaining a flawless online persona, or keeping up with the latest trends, there's often an underlying stress to be liked and accepted. Unfortunately, this can lead to anxiety and feelings of inadequacy, especially when young people compare their lives to the curated, filtered posts they see online. Social media creates an environment where everyone is competing for attention, and that can negatively impact self-esteem.
Absolutely, Priya. And beyond just the pressure to look perfect, social media can also be a breeding ground for cyberbullying and online harassment. It's one thing to deal with bullying in person, but online harassment can be even worse because it's persistent and often anonymous. There's a disturbing trend of people being targeted for their appearance, beliefs, or just because someone disagrees with them. Young people who are still developing emotionally can be especially vulnerable to this type of negativity. And when bullying happens online, it doesn't just stop when they leave school. It can follow them home, invading their private space. The emotional toll of online bullying can be huge, leading to depression, anxiety, or even worse.
Right, Ryan. And this is also tied to a larger issue: social media's influence on body image. The pressure to look a certain way, whether that's based on a body type, skin tone, or fashion, can be overwhelming. Filters and photo editing apps make it easy to create unrealistic beauty standards that many youth feel they need to live up to. They're constantly exposed to these idealized versions of reality, which can lead to body dissatisfaction and even eating disorders. The idea that everyone is living this perfect life on social media, with their flawless looks and perfect relationships, creates a very distorted view of reality. And when youth try to compare themselves to these idealized versions, it can leave them feeling inadequate or even worthless.
Exactly. Social media promotes an unrealistic version of life, and when youth see that, they may start believing they're not measuring up. It creates this constant cycle of comparison, where the focus is on how many likes, comments, or followers you have, rather than on personal well-being or authentic connections. But it doesn't just affect mental health. It can also influence opinions, behavior, and even political views. Social media has become a place where misinformation spreads rapidly. Young people, who may not have the experience or the critical thinking skills to fully analyze the information, can be easily influenced by false narratives, conspiracy theories, or biased viewpoints. This echo chamber effect can shape their opinions in ways that may not be based on fact or reason.
And this ties into the idea of social media addiction, which is a real concern. We've all heard of people scrolling for hours, sometimes mindlessly, just looking for the next post, like, or video to watch. Social media platforms are designed to keep users engaged as long as possible, which can lead to unhealthy habits. Youth may spend more time online than engaging in real-life activities, like spending time with family or participating in extracurriculars. The constant need to check notifications or stay updated on what's trending can lead to decreased productivity and even affect sleep patterns. Spending too much time on social media, especially late at night, can interfere with getting enough rest, which is crucial for young people's development.
Right, Priya. Social media addiction isn't just about wasting time. It can also affect social skills. The more time youth spend on their phones or computers, the less time they spend developing face-to-face communication skills. This shift from in-person interactions to digital ones can result in shallow connections, as conversations online often lack the depth and nuance of in-person communication. And this can affect their ability to form meaningful relationships in the real world, leaving them feeling isolated or disconnected. Let's now shift gears and talk about how social media impacts communication skills. While social media has made it easier to stay connected with others, it's also changing the way young people communicate. Think about it. When youth communicate through platforms like texting, Instagram DMs, or Snapchat, They often don't have to deal with the nonverbal cues that come with face-to-face interactions, things like body language, tone of voice, or facial expressions. These are all key elements of communication that help convey emotions and context. Without them, conversations can sometimes feel flat or be misinterpreted. For example, what may sound like a lighthearted joke in a text message might come across as rude or aggressive if there's no tone to it.
That's a really good point, Ryan. The lack of nonverbal communication online means that a lot of what we say can be taken out of context. This is especially true for younger people who may not yet have fully developed the social skills to navigate tricky conversations. In face-to-face settings, if there's a misunderstanding, it's easier to clarify and resolve it. But online, things can escalate quickly. What starts as a minor misunderstanding on a text thread or a comment section can spiral into an argument because of how something was phrased or perceived. For young people who are still learning how to manage emotions and interactions, this can be especially challenging.
Exactly, Priya. And one of the things we're seeing with youth today is that social media has made communication more brief and transactional. Think about how quickly people are moving through their feeds. They're scrolling, liking, or commenting, but they're often not engaging in deeper, meaningful conversations. Tweets are limited to 280 characters, Instagram captions are often just a few words, and Snapchat messages disappear. It's easy to get used to having short interactions where there's no need for deep reflection or thoughtful responses. But in real life, relationships require more than quick exchanges. Building strong, genuine connections takes time, listening, and effort. When youth rely too much on quick interactions online, they may miss out on learning how to have in-depth, meaningful conversations in person.
Right, Ryan. And this shift to more digital communication has another downside: the potential for social isolation. Many young people use social media to connect with others, but sometimes these online interactions are not enough to fulfill their social needs. As relationships become more focused on likes and comments rather than real conversations, youth can start to feel disconnected from others, even when they're constantly interacting online. Over time, this can lead to feelings of loneliness. This is especially problematic because face-to-face interactions are essential for developing emotional intelligence and social skills, both of which are necessary for healthy relationships and success in life.
Exactly. And while it might feel easier to have a conversation online, face-to-face communication builds confidence, empathy, and active listening skills, which are all important for real-life situations. These skills can help youth navigate challenges, resolve conflicts, and build stronger bonds with others. So, while social media allows us to stay connected instantly, it's also important to remember that face-to-face communication plays a vital role in building deeper, more meaningful relationships.
Now, let's discuss how social media affects youth's sense of self-image. One of the biggest issues that comes with social media is the constant exposure to curated, filtered versions of reality. Platforms like Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok are full of perfectly edited images that often set unrealistic beauty standards. For young people, especially those still figuring out who they are, this can create a huge amount of pressure. They're exposed to influencers, celebrities, and even their peers presenting an idealized version of themselves. The issue is that these images are often far from reality. Many of them are heavily edited or filtered, which distorts what real beauty looks like.
That's so true, Priya. Social media's role in shaping beauty standards has been a growing concern. The pressure to look a certain way can be overwhelming, and it's not just about appearance. It extends to lifestyle as well. Many youth see influencers living these picture-perfect lives, whether it's traveling the world, wearing the latest trends, or having what appears to be the perfect relationship. This creates a sense of inadequacy for young people who feel like they need to match those ideals. The constant comparison to others can really affect their self-worth. Unfortunately, some may even resort to unhealthy behaviors like extreme dieting, using filters to change their appearance, or trying to mimic influencers to gain approval.
And it's not just about appearance. Social media affects how youth perceive their entire identity. The need for validation through likes, comments, or followers can make young people base their self-esteem on how others perceive them online. If a post doesn't get enough likes or comments, they might feel rejected or unworthy. Over time, this can lead to a distorted sense of self, where their value is determined by how much attention they get online rather than who they truly are. It's a tough cycle to break because social media rewards these behaviors. Every like and comment feels like a validation of who they are.
Exactly. And one of the more troubling aspects is how the pressure to maintain a certain image online can affect mental health. It's not just about feeling bad about how you look. It can spiral into anxiety, depression, and even eating disorders. Youth might start to feel like they're not good enough if their reality doesn't match the filtered world they see online. It's easy to forget that what we see on social media isn't the full story. It's often just a highlight reel of people's lives. No one's life is perfect, no matter how it may look through a screen.
And that's why it's so important to promote positive body image and self-acceptance, especially among young people. There are more and more influencers, celebrities, and activists who are challenging these unrealistic standards by promoting body diversity and embracing natural beauty. Some are even sharing behind-the-scenes moments to show that their lives are not as perfect as they seem. This shift is crucial because it shows youth that they don't have to meet these unattainable standards to be valuable or worthy. Instead, they can focus on their unique qualities, embrace their individuality, and develop a healthier sense of self.
Right, Priya. There's also the growing movement around mental health awareness, where people are using social media to talk about their struggles with body image and the pressure to conform. Encouraging youth to follow accounts that promote self-love and authenticity can help shift the focus away from comparison culture and toward embracing who they truly are. Social media doesn't have to be a space of negativity or self-doubt. It can be a platform for building confidence and self-esteem as long as we're mindful of what we consume and who we follow.
Now that we've covered the impact of social media, both positive and negative, let's talk about how youth can maintain a healthy relationship with these platforms. Social media is here to stay, and rather than just avoiding it, the goal should be learning how to use it in a way that benefits us. One of the first steps is setting clear boundaries. For example, many young people find it helpful to limit their screen time. This could mean setting specific times during the day to check social media or turning off notifications to avoid the constant pull to check for updates. By consciously choosing when to engage with social media, it becomes less of a habit and more of a controlled decision.
That's a great point, Priya. Setting boundaries doesn't mean cutting off social media completely. It's about finding a balance. One thing that works for some people is establishing tech-free zones or times, like during meals, family time, or right before bed. This helps create space for face-to-face connections, sleep, and other activities that don't involve screens. It's also important to be mindful of when social media usage starts to feel like it's taking over. If someone feels like they're spending more time scrolling than actually enjoying real-world activities, it might be time to reassess how much time they're spending online.
Absolutely, Ryan. And one way to keep social media use in check is by being mindful of the content you consume. Not all social media accounts are created equal. It's essential to follow accounts that promote positivity, education, and creativity, rather than those that foster comparison or unrealistic expectations. If youth curate their feeds to include content that inspires and uplifts them, whether it's motivational quotes, educational videos, or body-positive influencers, they can ensure that their social media experience is enriching rather than harmful. It's about being intentional with the accounts they follow and the content they engage with.
Right. Another important aspect is practicing digital detoxes. Taking breaks from social media every once in a while can help reset your mind and reduce the constant pressure of being online. A digital detox doesn't have to be a long time. Sometimes just a day or a weekend without checking social media can help you reconnect with the real world. This time away from screens gives you the chance to focus on other things, like hobbies, personal development, or spending quality time with family and friends.
Exactly, Ryan. And when it comes to managing social media for mental well-being, it's also important to talk about how to handle negative feelings that arise from using these platforms. If you're feeling bad after scrolling through your feed, it's okay to step back and reflect on why that is. Sometimes it's helpful to unfollow accounts that make you feel inadequate or anxious. Taking control of your social media experience means deciding what content is worth your attention and what isn't. It's all about creating a positive online environment where you feel safe, supported, and inspired.
Absolutely, Priya. And one last thing, talking openly about social media with others, especially trusted friends or family, can be really helpful. If you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed by what you see online, having a conversation about it can make a big difference. It's easy to feel isolated or like you're the only one going through it, but opening up can show you that others are dealing with the same challenges. Social media can be a great tool for connection, but it's also important to build real-world connections that support and nurture mental health.
Right, Ryan. In the end, it's all about balance. Social media can be a positive tool for learning, growth, and connection, but it's essential to approach it mindfully. Setting boundaries, curating your feed, and taking breaks when necessary can help maintain a healthy relationship with these platforms. It's also important to always be kind to yourself and recognize that your value isn't determined by likes, followers, or how well you match online standards. Real life is about the experiences, relationships, and moments that happen offline.
Today, we've explored how social media impacts youth, both positively and negatively. It's a powerful tool for learning, creativity, and connection, but it also comes with challenges like pressure, mental health concerns, and unrealistic standards.
The key is balance, setting boundaries, being mindful of content, and taking breaks when needed. Social media can be great if used responsibly, but it's important to remember it's just one part of life. Thanks for joining us today as we discuss the impact of social media on youth. We appreciate you listening. Take care and remember to stay mindful of your social media habits.